Hey everybody, welcome back to creating scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator using free resources. This is kind of a new series of that series. That series being creating scenery using free resources. So I have a sub-series that I'm doing, and I'm going to show you how to build a Quonset hangar. All right. So I'm working on KCAK, which is Akron-Canton Airport. And I've already done all these buildings over here for the airport. Okay, the terminal, the U.S. Customs, PSA Airlines, and McKinley Air FBO and their maintenance building. Now I'm getting ready to add the Timken Engineering hangar, which is a big Quonset. It's a complex Quonset hangar. Quonset meaning that it has that round roof to it. Okay. A simple Quonset would be like this hangar down here that just has a rectangle office building in the front, but the rest of the building is along the curves. Okay. But this one has a little bit of complexity to it. Not hard, but just different. It has its own door shed in the front, and then it has this unique office building on the side. Usually a lot of the office buildings come off of the Quonset and have a flat roof, but this one has a roof that is a continuation of the curved roof. All right. Then it has this little rectangular part here. We have in the south side of the building, it has two large horizontal bifolding doors. Okay. And on the business end, the apron end of the building, the door shed has six sliding, horizontal sliding hangar doors that we'll model. It also has a fuel tank, probably some kind of utility shed for the system, and it also has some of this air duct apparatus stuff on the outside. All right. So what I'm going to do is we are going to build this together so you can see some of the different tools to use to make your hangars. Normally, if it's a building that pilots interact with, that they come into, that they can pull the airplanes in, I will use I'll make my siding 3D instead of using PBR textures to model it. But this one, I'm just going to use PBR textures just so you get a handle on doing that, and I don't make this video any longer than it has to be. It's going to be in different parts, but it's going to be quite a long series, so I apologize for that. I know a lot of you guys don't like to hear me talk. I'm kind of boring. But anyway, we're going to split it up. So today we're going to make the door shed, and we're going to make the basic shape of the rest of the hangar, and then we'll get to working on that roof and stuff. All right. So the resources that you're going to need is, and they're free, of course. First one obviously is going to be Google Earth. Normally I work off of multiple screens, so I don't have to bring Google Earth to the front. But since I'm filming, I'm casting off of one screen right now. So I'll be bringing stuff to the casting screen so you can see what I'm doing. So you'll need Google Earth, zoomed into KCAK, and find the Timken Engineering hangar, which is just right next to McKinley FBO. All right. And I'll show you how to use some tools here in a second. The second tool is you're going to need Blender. And Blender's free to download at blender.org. So get your Blender and get your Google Earth. Okay, in Blender, start a new project. Let me show you where I'm saving my projects on mine. So I'll bring up my browser here, my Explorer, Windows Explorer here. So I have a directory that I save all my scenery in. I have the airport that I'm working on, and then I'll either have the airport file. Actually, I'll have the airport project itself, which is the runways, taxiways, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll also have the buildings package that I'm using. Since I'm working on a building, I'm in the building package, and I'm in the package sources, and I'm in my model lib, which I have uniquely named for this project, which is very important when you're working on this stuff. Don't have the default name model lib, because that will interfere with other people's sceneries, which it shouldn't, because they should be uniquely naming their model lib. Okay, so anyway, I have a unique name for my model lib, and I've set that up in the XMLs. You can watch previous videos to know how to do that. And then I have a directory for each building that I do. So I have McKinley Air 2, because they have two. They have their new FBO and their old one. And then I have the terminal, a garage, their covered garage, U.S. Customs building, and I am currently working on Timken Engineering's hangar. All right. Now I do have, if you'll see me click on Timken, I do have a Blender file in there that I've already been working on, but I decided that I'm going to go ahead and film it, building it, so you can see all the little things that I do. Now I do mine probably different than a lot of other people, so understand that I just want you to get some basic tools, and then you can watch other videos and other Blender experts to get how to do things. But this is how I do some of my stuff. Hopefully you can use some of that. Okay, so we'll save our project as Timken 2, just so you know the difference between these two, and then I'll actually save my Blender file into the model lib directory, so when I back up my stuff, I know exactly where all my models are for everything that I do. All right, so that tells you that. Okay, all right, so we are in Blender. This is how Blender comes up. You get the default cube, you get a light, and you get the camera. All right, make sure my screencast is turned on so you can see what keys I'm pushing. Okay, there's my default cube. A lot of times you'll end up deleting that, but we're going to keep it because I'm going to use the basic shape to start. The one thing I do is I get rid of the light and the camera. So I'm select shift the light and the camera, and I'll hit delete, because I never use those. Unless you're doing rendering in Blender, you don't need them, especially the light, because if you leave the light and you export that out to Flight Simulator, it's going to light up your object, and you may not want that. All right, so I have the default cube. I need to get some measurements. Now I do know some of these measurements because I've done other measuring. I use other tools for measuring. So some of the distances that you see me record, they might not be the dimensions that I know they are. Okay, and I'll explain that as we go. So you have the default cube, and what I like to do is when the default cube is up, when you first bring up Blender, this way is positive on the X and this way is positive on the Y, and I want to try to orient my object so it makes sense to me, to my brain. Positive is right and away from me, and negative is to the left and down from me. All right, so I'm going to hit the tilde and T for top, so I know that this is negative and this is negative and this is positive and this is positive. Then I hold down my scroll wheel and I move my object, my scene, so I know where I'm oriented. Okay, so anything to the right and away from me is positive, anything to the left and toward me is negative. Make sense? Okay. So we have the default cube. Now we need to get some measurements from Google Earth. So bring up Google Earth, and we are working on the door shed. Okay. Now notice that this Quonset Hunt, like we said, has some unique features that other Quonsets don't. All right. So the curved roof comes all the way past. The Quonset itself is, you'll notice this kind of square right here. That's the actual Quonset itself. And then this is the curved roof of the office. All right, so the basic shape of the Quonset is this square or relative. It's almost a square. It's not quite a square, but it's pretty close. Okay, so to get measurements, you're going to use the measuring tool in Google Earth. Make sure that you have the 3D buildings on. If you're fortunate to be working in a building that has 3D buildings, turn your 3D buildings on. And the 3D buildings is right down here in the left-hand corner. Okay, so I'll move my picture back here. So make sure 3D buildings are turned on. Then your middle scroll wheel, your scroll wheel on your mouse, holding that in does the rotation, and the left mouse button does the pan. All right. Now, two different types of measuring. So let's turn on our measuring tool with the ruler up above. You have line, path, and 3D path is the three tools that you're going to mostly use. The difference between line and path is if you use line, and let's come down here and I click here, you'll get a rubber band line. Okay, with line, if I'm measuring from this point to this probably telephone box or mailbox, notice that the line, when I click, I have all these ridges and valleys because line actually measures along the topography. And see, these cars are in the topography of the scene, so it's going to go up and over all these cars that are in the image, right? Okay, when you're doing a linear measurement of a building, you don't want that, okay, because it takes those bumps and troughs into consideration for your measurement. So I'm getting 149.7 feet. Okay, I do a lot of rounding, so you know your models aren't going to be perfect unless you have engineering drawings, but know when to round and know when not to. Okay, so anyway, I got 114.7 feet between those 2 points. Okay, if I turn that, clear that off and go to path, and I click roughly the same area, it's not going to be exact, click here and click over to here, notice that the line doesn't, it goes through those cars. All right, it's a path, not a line along the ground. And usually when you're measuring 3D buildings, that's the method that you want to use. Okay, you want to use the path and not the line. Okay, the next measuring tool, I'm going to clear this, is the 3D path. 3D path allows you to measure vertical distances, not horizontal. So if you want heights of things. All right, so I'm going to come down here to the corner of this door shed, and I'm going to click its ground corner and come up to the top of the wall, and I'm going to get a distance of 26.5 feet, which is pretty darn close. It's actually 26.5. So I'm pretty close. All right. So, any questions on using Google Earth to do measuring? Most of you probably know how to do that. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments. Okay, let's get going. Let's do some measuring. So like I said, I do know some of the basic measurements of this building. So what I measure using the measuring tool and what I say it is it's going to be two different things sometimes, okay? So you guys make the decision when you're making your buildings, all right, on what you're going to do. You know, get as many resources as you can for your buildings. Like I do get a lot of stuff off the internet. Like if Timken doesn't have a lot of stuff on their internet about this particular hangar, but like for McKinley Air, I'll go to their website and see if they have pictures of their buildings and stuff that I'll save to my prototype directory. Okay, but Timken doesn't on this particular because they're an engineering firm that happens to have a hangar out at the airport. Okay, so they may not have pictures of their hangar. All right, so let's do some measuring. Turn on our path tool, and I'm going to measure from this corner as close as I can, and click this corner as close as I can. And I'm getting 142.33 feet, but I do know that it actually is 144. All right, so that's going to be my X direction. And my Y direction, I'm going to measure this wall. So we'll clear that out and measure from here. Oh, I'm off there. Okay, it says 10.67, but it's actually 11 feet is actually the real measurement of this particular structure. So it's pretty close. Okay, so if I want to do a better job of my measuring, I'm going to click here, and then I'll find that other corner, click there, and I'm still getting pretty close to 10.5, but I do know that it's 11 feet. Okay, so we have a rectangle to start off, 144 by 11, and I'm in empirical measurements. If you guys are using meters, that's fine. All right, so let's go into Blender. And let's go to make sure our default cube is selected and change the measuring or the units that you were using. Come over here to scene properties, go to units and change metric to empirical if you're in the United States. If you're elsewhere in the world, you use metric, okay? All right, so I'm in empirical. And I'm going to come over here to my X direction and make that 144 feet. And I'm going to make my Y direction 11 feet. Okay. Now we need the height. Go to back to Google Earth. Now, if you'll notice, this particular door shed is off center. Okay. And the reason that it's off center, from this wall to this wall is actually the square of the Quonset, and the door shed is actually, the doors itself are for the Quonset and not the office space over here. This is where the doors slide into. Okay, so it doesn't take into account the width of the building. All right, the width of the Quonset itself. It takes into consideration the office addition. Okay, and that's going to be useful. All right, and I'll show that here in a second. So just so you know, I'm going to be pausing the video to catch my breath and things like that, take drinks and wipe my nose, etc. All right, so bear with me. Okay, so we have 144 from this corner to this corner. Now we need our height, and I'm going to measure. Now this door shed has two heights. This wall is shorter than this wall because of the extension to the roof. Okay, so I do know that this one is around 26 feet on this end, So I'm going to make sure I'm on 3D path, which I'm not. So click off of that, clear, go to 3D path, come down to the ground corner, click there, you get a blue dot, come up here and click again, and you get a blue dot, and it says 26.92. I do know that it's 26. Okay, so the height of, I'm going to make the height of our box 26 feet. So come back to Blender, go to the Z and make Z 26. Okay, now Blender, the middle of that box or that cube or whatever it is now, it's no longer a cube, but bar, the origins are in the middle of the mass. All right, so my building is 13 feet. Since the height is 26, the building is 13 feet into the ground, so I need to move that up. So I'm going to hit GZ to move it up, and I'm going to type in 13 to bring that up to ground level, just like that. Okay, so it's 26 feet on this end of the building. All right, now we're going to need to put a pitch to that building. We're going to need to put a pitch to this particular object. So we have our bar for our door shed, and this is at the 26 feet level. Okay, now what I like to do is, since I have a pitched roof that we're going to have to add here soon, just because of the way that loop cuts work, I don't like to do a lot of loop cuts with a lot of angled stuff, because it kind of throws the shape off a little bit. I like to work in rectangles and squares as much as I can when I'm doing my loop cuts. So I'm going to break this shape. Notice that we're inclined here and come down here. Okay, I'm going to break this shape up into different pieces so I can work with them independently, and then I'll join parts together. Okay, I'll show you how that I'm talking about. On this shed, this wall is 26 feet. Okay, but over on the other end of the building, this wall from here to here is 28 feet. I just know that because I've measured it before. So if I go to 3D path and I come over to this wall, click at the bottom, click at the top, I get 27.94, but I know it's 28 feet. So this wall, which is the west wall of the hangar, of the shed door, is 2 feet higher than the east wall. Okay, so I get these different planes that I'd be working with, and I don't want to do that when I'm doing my loop cuts, because it just throws things off a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to split this part of the shed, this triangle part, into its own part. Okay, so let's go back to Blender, and I'm going to double click on the default cube name and make that, I'm going to call that door shed. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the tab key, go into edit mode, and I am going to select polygons and select this top polygon. I'm going to hit Shift D to copy it, escape so I don't move it, hit P to create a new selection, and I'm going to call this door shed top for now. Okay, so now I have a rectangle that is at the 26 foot Z elevation. All right, and I'm going to use that in a little bit. Okay, and I'll show you here in a second. But now that we have a copy of it, I'm going to hit tab, get out of edit mode, and select our original bar, which is the same. If I turn that off, you'll know that you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, now I'm working with the rectangle, and what I want to do is I want to cut in my doors. All right, because I want to get those laid out before I start messing with the pitch of the roof. All right, because I don't want it to throw my measurements off. All right, so we're going to cut in the shape of the doors of the door shed. All right, so let's go back to Google Earth, get a couple measurements. I need the measurement of the doors. When the doors are slid open, they get stored in this area. All right, so let's call that the door storage. So I need that measurement, and I also need the height of the door, and I also need oops, let me clear that. I also need this distance, this small little distance here. Okay, so if I zoom in, I can only zoom in so far before it goes into street level, just like it just did there. So I'll exit ground level, go back to where I was. Okay, middle mouse button, and then pan over. So let's get some measurements to cut in this door. All right, so I'm going to go to path, and I'm going to click the end of the building and click to where the door is, and I'm getting 22.48. It's actually 22.5, so that's pretty good measurement there. So we're going to call that 22.5 feet. Okay, go back to Blender, and I'm in edit mode of our original door shed, and I'm going to hit Control R to make a loop cut. Okay, and I'm going to click, and then I'm going to slide that all the way down to the end and click again, and then I'm going to hit GX because I'm moving in the X direction, and I'm going in the positive direction, so it's 22.4. 22.5. So now we have a loop cut of where that door begins. All right, now we need the height of the door. So go to 3D path, and I'm going to click on the bottom of the door to the top of the door, and I'm getting 23.22, and I know that it is 23 exactly. All right, so clear that out. Go back to Blender, and we're going to make another loop cut, Control R, except we're going to cut it this way. So click, drag down at the bottom, and hit GZ to move that line, that cut up, and we're going to go 23. Okay, so here is the layout for this left side of the door. Now we need to add in our little bump wall over here. Okay, so I believe that's about 1.5 feet actually. It's a pretty small distance. All right, so we're going to go to a path and click down here and here. So it's about 1.5 feet thick. All right, so go to Blender. We're going to do another Control R, click, move that to the right this time until it hits that line, click, and then we're going to move that at 1.5 feet in the negative direction of X. So GX minus 1.5. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go into poly select, and we're going to select this rectangle right here. This is our door. All right, that's the area that's going to contain our door, and I'm going to hit P to make it its own part. So it's a new selection, and I'm going to come up here, and since it gives it that name, I'm going to say I'm going to actually change that to hangar door. Okay. So if I turn that off, you notice that we have the cutout for our door, right? Okay. So let's get rid of a few things that we don't need right away. So we can turn off our hangar doors. We don't really need them right at this second. All right. The other thing is I like to get rid of pieces that I'm not really going to need in my model. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm still in edit mode for the door shed. Okay. And I'm going to select these polys on the floor, and I'm going to hit P to make them a new selection, and I'm going to make them their own selection, and I'm going to call this door shed floor. Now I won't use the floor, but I don't delete the part unless I know I'm never going to use it, but I'll give it its own name, but then I'll just turn it off, and I won't export that out to the model because I'll use ground textures to take care of the floor. All right. All right. So we have the basic shape of the rectangular part of our door shed. Now we need to start to work on our roof. To get information on our roof, okay, we are going to go back to Google Earth here in a second. All right, so let's go to Google Earth. Remember, the west wall, this wall, and the east wall are two different heights. The west wall is actually 2 feet taller than the east side. Okay, so this measurement from the ground to the top, to the bottom of the fascia is actually 28 feet. Okay, I think I got like 27.97 when I measured it. Oops, wrong tool. 3D path. Yeah, pretty close to 28 feet. I got 27.98 before, but it's actually 28. So now we're working on the triangle part. This end, this east end, is not going to change, but I need the height of the apex of the roof and the height of this part of the roof, right? And I also need the distance from one corner to the other of where the apex actually is. So if I go here to path and I click here, we can come up here, find a corner, click, puts a blue dot down there, and then straight across from that to the middle where the apex is, I'm going to get around 81 feet. I think it's 82. Okay. In real life, it's actually 82. It's actually going to be half of this square right here, whatever that square is. All right. So let's do some do some measuring here. Let's come over to this side of the building, because the apex is right down the middle of the main part of the Quonset. So let's go to do path and go from this corner to this corner. And I get 128.79. Okay? But I do know, I do have a measurement that I've already worked on that I can do some simple math to get what that distance actually is. All right. So if we come back over here to the front, we know that the distance from this wall to this wall was 144 feet, right? Okay. And the distance of the storage area of our door which is in line with this wall right here, we knew that that was 22.5 feet. So to get the center, because the center of our roof is based on this end of the door and this end of the door minus this 1.5 or in addition to that 1.5. All right. So we're going to take the 144 feet and subtract the 22.5 feet. All right. And that's going to give us 121.5 feet from here to here. All we need to find is the distance in the middle. Okay. So take our calculator and take the 121.5, divide that by 2, and we get 60.75. Okay, so 60 3/4 feet for where our apex is, right? Okay. So we can come back into Blender and let's get out of edit mode for our shed door, our door shed. Okay, there's our door shed. We want our roof, okay, this top part. Okay, go into edit mode. Okay, and we're going to put in a loop cut. And we're going to Control R. And I'm going to move this all the way to the right this time. And I'm going to move that again using GX minus 60.75. And that is going to put our apex of our roof in the middle of our door section or the main part of the Quonset. Okay? Now we need to get its height. Okay? So go back to Google Earth and measure from the ground, and a straight line from the ground, make sure you're on 3D path, is, you can see this pavement, this line in the image right here, that is ground level, and that yellow line or the middle of this door where these two doors come together is the center. So click the ground as close as you can and up to the apex. And that gives us a distance of 34.33. It's actually 34. Okay, it's not 34.25. It's 33 feet to the top of that apex. All right. Let's go back into Blender. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do a couple things first, a little bit of cleanup here. So let's get out of edit mode for a second, and with all of our objects selected, so we can come over here to our tree and let's turn everything on and select everything. All right, notice that our scale does not equal to 1. We need our scale to equal to 1. So what we're going to do is, with everything selected, go to come over here to Object, Apply All Transformations. Okay, and that makes our scale equal to 1, plus any vertice that we have in our object will be set relative to the real world. Okay, origins. All right. Okay, so now we can turn off our hangar doors and our floor again and select our top and go back into edit mode. Okay, so our loop cut is still there. All right, now we know that these two vertices, let's go to vertice mode so you can see the vertices. We know that these two vertices are going to be at the 34-foot mark. Right now, they're at the 26-foot mark. All right, so with those two vertices selected, come over here to the Z and change those to 34. And that moves that up. Okay? Now the next part is these two vertices right over here. Remember, this wall is actually 2 feet higher than this wall over here. So we're going to need to take these two vertices and move them up 2 feet. Sorry if I'm hiccuping. My apologies. All right, so in edit mode with our roof selected, and these two vertices here, hit GZ and move those up 2 feet. Okay, so there's the basic shape of the roof of our door shed. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to fill in this space. Okay, so notice that we just have a plane for our roof line, right? But we need to bring this down 2 feet, and we need to close in these ends of our door shed, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're still in edit mode for our roof shed top, and I'm going to hit edge, the edge tool, and with this edge selected, just like that, I'm going to hit E to extrude in the Z direction. So that's EZ, and we're going to go -2, and that puts a little wall on the end. Okay, so now I have enough vertices to close in these ends of the shed. All right, so we're going to go into vertice, and we're going to select this vertice, this vertice, this vertice, and this, and we're going to hit F to we're going to hit F to close those in, to close the polygon, right? Okay, and we are going to do the same on the other side. So select these vertices that make up this side and hit F. All right, so we just close those in. Now we need to check their orientation to make sure that the normals are facing out. So all you need to do is come up here to the overlays menu, arrow down, go to face orientation. Anything that's blue is facing in the right direction. Anything red is in the wrong direction, or it's not wrong, since this is a two-dimensional plane. One side's going to be correct, one side isn't. Okay, but I want red to be pointing to the inside of the building. Okay, and that's what we have. All my exterior walls are blue, so my normals are correct. So I come back up to the overlay and turn face orientation back off. Okay, then we're going to get out of edit mode, tab, and we need to do one important thing. All right, and that is to save our project. So with your project ready to save, come up to File, Save, and if you haven't saved before, it's going to bring up this dialog box, and double check your directory path. And I'm in my model lib directory for this airport, and I'm in the directory Timken that I named. Okay, there already is a Timken blend, all right, and that's a previous version of the building that I've been working on. But we're going to give this a new name, and we're going to call this Timken 2. Okay, so Timken2.blend, hit enter and save the Blender file. All right, so we're saved. Okay, now we're going to come back to our original shed because we don't need to do anything with the roof yet. Okay, but we're going to come back to the original roof object, which is called door shed. Okay, we're going to go to edit mode, and we're going to cut in a few other features of this door shed. All right, so go hit tab to go back into edit mode. Now, if you'll notice in the prototype picture, we have a person door up right down here. Okay, In the United States, a standard size of a door, 90% of the time, the door is going to be 3 feet or close to 1 meter wide to 7 feet tall. Okay, standard door size in the United States is 3 feet by 7. Okay, so I'm going to make a loop cut for the height of the door and make a loop cut for the actual door itself. Now notice over here, between the hangar doors and the person door, I'm going to call it P door, okay, there's a gap, okay, part of the wall. And you can measure that, or you can guess of what this is. All right, so we're going to go path, and we're going to measure from this corner of the door to where the actual P door is, and we're getting 1.5 feet. Okay, so we're going to make a loop cut 1.5 feet and then make our door. All right, so in Blender with our door shed in edit mode, we're going to come down here, and since I don't want to make loop cuts on both sides now, I don't need a loop cut over here unless there is actually an office door that goes into the office there, which it doesn't, because when the hangar doors are all open, this is filled with doors. Okay, the hangar doors. So there would not be a passageway from this person door all the way through to the other side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, if you'll notice, if I get out of edit mode and I turn off our door shed top, it has, and then go back into edit mode. If I make a loop cut right now, it will loop all the way around and cut the other side. See how that does that yellow line? It's cutting both sides. Okay, I don't want that to happen. In order to make that not happen, okay, you want to get rid of this roof cap. But I don't want to delete it, I want to keep it. I'm just going to make it its own object. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape to stop my loop cut, and I'm going to go into polygon select, and I'm going to select, it's kind of like a ceiling. All right, I'm going to hit P, make a new selection, and I'm going to call that, and this is what I do, I don't delete it unless I'm really sure. Whoops, I forgot one here. I forgot a polygon here, so I want to Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Okay, so I undid what I just did. I forgot to select this polygon at the end, so I have 3 polygons selected. Hit P for new selection, and I don't really want to get rid of, delete it completely. Just in case I need it, I'm just going to call this scrap. I'm going to put scrap at the end of it, hit enter, and then I'm going to turn that off. Okay, now when I do a loop cut, Control R, notice that it only does this wall. Now if I did a loop cut this way, it goes all the way around because I have this east wall is still there, but the floor and the ceiling are gone, so it only loop cuts this particular face. Okay, all right, so I'm Control R, loop cut, hit my mouse button and move it over to our hangar door. Okay, and then click again. Now I can move that loop cut by hitting GX minus, since I'm going the negative direction, 1.5. Okay, so now we have our gap between our hangar door and our person door. Now we need our person door, so we're going to do another loop cut, click, drag, click, GX minus 3 for 3 feet wide, hit enter. So now we have the width of our person door. Now we need the top. Okay, now I don't mind my loop cut going all the way around, all right, because this part of the shed door will eventually go away. Okay, so now we're going to make a horizontal loop cut. So Control R, click, drag that down to the bottom, GZ, because we're moving it up now, 7 feet. And now we have our person door right there, our P door. So go to Polygon Select, select that little rectangle, hit P for new selection, and come over here and rename that. And I'm going to call that Door Shed P Door. Okay, come up with your own naming conventions. Okay, or you can use mine, doesn't matter. Okay, and then I can turn off that P door. So there's the basic shape of our main part of our door shed. Okay, and don't forget to save your projects periodically. Okay, next let's work on the actual doors themselves. All right, so let's turn on our doors, which I called hangar door. Turn those back on and select that object. Okay, let's go ahead and turn on the top just so you can see how it looks so far. All right, but with the hangar door selected, tab into edit mode. Okay, and you have one nice long rectangle, and if you look at our prototype photo, it has 6 doors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now these look smaller because they've slid them open. Okay, 2 of them have people doors in them, and they also have a band of translucent windows. Okay, we'll model those as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is that rectangle that we have for our doorway, all we need to do is a series of loop cuts to make 6 individual polygons. All right, so that's what we're going to do, and they're equally spaced, so you don't have to do any measurements here. Okay, so let's go back into Blender, and we have our hangar door selected, and we are in edit mode. So now we're just going to make a loop cut. So that's Control R. And if you use your scroll wheel, it adds loops. So there's 3 polygons, 4, 5, 6. All I did was move the scroll wheel to add loop cuts. All right, so now I have 6 doors. Now I can hit enter and hit escape so I don't move them. Okay, so we have those. Now what we want to do is we want to make our loop cut for our windows. All right, so if I go back to Google Earth, go to 3D Path, and click on the bottom of our door, and then click the bottom of the window. It should be around 12 feet or so. Yeah, it's 12.5 feet. Okay, to get the height of the window, so we know it's 12.5 feet to the bottom of the window. So let's clear that. Now we need the distance to the top. It should be around 17.5. Yeah, it's pretty close. Okay, so those are 5 feet tall windows. All right, plus or minus. You guys be as precise as you want. But I'm going to call it 12.5 on the bottom and 17.5 at the top. So let's minimize that. Go into Blender with edit mode still on. Control R for a loop cut. And I'm going to click, drag that all the way to the bottom. Hit GZ 12.5. All right, now we need another one, and I know the height of the windows are 5 feet. Okay, so I'm going to do a loop cut, Control R, and it splits this distance here automatically. So if I click and drag down to that line, now I can go up GZ 5 feet. So now we have the cutouts for where those windows are. All right. Now you could do a series of loop cuts for the people doors, but we only have a people door on this door and this door. Okay, The other 4 don't have a people door on them, I don't think. Let's take a look. Yeah, see, we only have a people door on this one and this one. Okay, so I would not do my loop cuts right yet. I mean, you could, because I don't want a line in this door, this door, this door, and this door at 7 feet high. I only want those in this door and this door. Now, the other thing that you could do, all right, is you can create one door and then copy it 6 times. Okay, you don't have to do it this way. Okay, I may not be doing it the most efficient way, but it gives you an idea. You always learn things when you repeat it over and over and over. Then it becomes second nature to you. Okay, but I can take door number 6. I'm calling this one door number 6 and this door number 1. All right, I can take door number 6 and I can make the door look exactly like it is, and then I can just copy that door 5 other times. Okay, but I'm not going to do that here. Okay, but you can do it that way, and that is a very efficient way. That way you're only modeling one door. But the problem is this has a people door in it and this has a people door in it, and so you can make 2 doors. You can make door 6 and then door 5, and then copy door 6 to door 3 and move it over here, and door 5 gets copied to door 4, 2, and 1. Okay, that's probably the most efficient way to do it. Okay, but I'm gonna just go on doing it this way just so you can get the feel of the edit environment. All right, if I drone on, just fast forward in the video. I'm sorry, but I like to be concise when I'm doing my tutorials. Okay, so I have the 6 doors laid out. Obviously not the people doors. We'll talk about that here in a second. Now, I want to copy each one to their own door so I can move them individually. All right, so with the doors, go into polygon select mode and go to door 1 and select those 3 polygons. Okay, and hit P and make that a new selection, and you're going to see hangar door 001. All right, good, that's what we want. Now, still in edit mode, still in polygon select door number 2 and hit P, and that makes door number 2. And then repeat the process for door 3, 4, 5. Okay, so select those polygons, P, select. Select those polygons, P, select. And select those polygons and P, select. So now I have door 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and door 6 is our original hangar door object. Okay, so you can get out of edit mode by hitting tab, go to your original door and just put a 6 at the end of that, and then rename these by just double clicking and deleting out the 0 and the period. And do the same for these. Okay, just like this. I know that this is boring, but you know, the more that you do repetitive stuff, the more that you remember. Okay, so that's why I kind of like do this in my tutorials, so you can see things over and over again so you can learn them. All right, some of you guys don't like that approach. I apologize, but that's how I do it. Okay. Okay, so each door is a separate object now. Door 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now we need to look at our prototype and notice one thing, that these doors are offset each other by about a foot. Okay, those doors are about a foot thick. All right. So what we're going to do is this first door, door number 6, is set back a foot from the edge of the building. And then each subsequent door is inset another foot. All right. So going back to our model, I'm going to select all the doors. I'm going to select all the doors. No, I'm going to, okay, let's do it this way. Come over our table of contents and click the first door, shift, hold the second door. Last door. Sorry. And that gets all the doors selected. And we are going to GY 1 foot. Okay, so you notice down here at this corner, our door is now inset 1 foot. Okay, that's all the doors. Then you can select 2 through 6. 1 through 5. Okay, GY1, and that insets them another foot. And then 2 through 5. Is that right? No. 1 through 4. GY1. 1 through 3. GY1. 1 and 2. GY1. And then door number 1, 1 more foot. So GY1. So now all of our doors are staggered. Okay. A couple other things that we'll do here in a second. Okay, so now you notice that everything is kind of two-dimensional in a way. Okay, there's no thickness to these doors. There's no thickness to the walls. There's no stop for the walls for the doors at this end. Okay, and if you notice that there's gaps up here, all right, so we need to fill in all those. All right, so the ceiling, for instance, is actually the tracks along the top that the doors are hooked into. Let me see if I can do it. So they slide like this, okay? So we need to put in this part right here, okay? We need to put in the track system or a ceiling that simulates the tracks. You don't have to actually put the tracks in. You guys model the much detail as you want, okay? So we need to give the doors thickness. We need to close this little gap here. We need to put in the bumper wall on this end of the doors, okay? So basically, you can do that many different ways. You can actually solidify all the walls, but I'm not going to do that because in some cases that adds unnecessary polygons to your model. So what we're going to do is, with our shed dorm selected, our door shed selected, tab into edit mode. Okay, and I'm going to come to the bumper wall, and I'm going to go edge, and I'm going to select this edge, and I'm going to select this edge. All right, and we're going to extrude that all the way across. Okay, because most likely in the real world, this bumper wall is closed off and this is useless space. Okay, it's a cavity in the building. All right, it's only used to stop the doors from sliding all the way through, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to snap, and we're going to snap to an edge and then turn our snap on. Okay, so our magnet is on. And I have these two edges selected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude these edges in the Y direction, because that's away from us, the green line. And I'm going to snap them to this edge over here. Okay, so I'm going to E, Y, and then snap you notice the circle stops right there, and then I hit click, and now I have a wall just like that. All right, so those doors will slide and they'll stop where they're supposed to. Well, in real life they do. All right, so I have this bumper wall modeled. Now I don't need any polygons on the bottom because those are in the ground and those are useless polygons that we don't need. Okay, now we need our ceiling. We're going to do the same thing with our ceiling. We're going to bring that ceiling all the way across. Okay, now same principle. So select the edge that you want. Make sure you're on edge select. Select that edge, which is the top of our door, right? And we are going to extrude that with our snap to edge. We're going to extrude that in the Y direction to snap on this edge right here. Okay, so make sure your snap edge is on. Make sure you have your edge selected. And technically, to be honest with you, this ceiling, the so-called ceiling, inside the door pocket over here will actually have a set of tracks too. So you can select these three edges as well if you wanted to. Okay. Okay. So you can select this edge, and this edge, and extrude all of those at the same time all the way across. It's totally up to you. I'm not going to do that because right now I'm going to have the doors closed. If I had the doors all the way open, I might want to model that a little better. Okay, so we're just going to do the top of the doors itself. All right, if I'm losing you, forgive me. All right, so anyway, I have the edge that we're making our track system on the ceiling, and we're going to extrude that to this edge over here. Okay, so let's turn our hangar door, let's at least turn one of them off. Let's turn door one off so we can see that. All right, with this edge selected, hit E, Y, and then snap. Okay, so now I have a ceiling on the top of our door. All right, and like I said, you could do these edges if you wanted to as well, but I'm not going to in this particular exercise. Okay, so let's turn door one back on. So now we have our track system on the top. We have our bumper wall down here. Okay, now we need to put this little wall at the end, but this wall doesn't go all the way across like our bumper wall did because the doors have to slide behind that wall, right? Okay, so I'm going to select this edge. I'm going to hit the period to zoom in on it. So we're going to select this edge, and we are only going to extrude those in the Y direction 1 foot. Okay, so EY1. Okay, so that closes in that particular wall, just like that. Okay, so our door shed is taking shape. So it's time to do a file, save, and take a break. Okay, after break, it's just a short break. I'm going to have to go to lunch here pretty soon. But anyway, let's continue on. Now, this person door, I'm going to turn that back on. This shed door, P door. Turn that back on so we have our polygon show up. All right. One thing about doors. I got out of edit mode by hitting tab. One thing about doors depends on whether it opens in or opens out. If a door opens in, the door is inset about 3 to 4 inches. Okay. If the door opens out, most likely that door is flush with the wall that it's opening out from. Okay, that's just standard construction. Okay, with the exception of maybe the trim around the door, but we're not talking about that right now. Okay. This particular door, if I look at the photo, now this is an interpolation photo. I don't actually have a photo of this person door right here. But this door, looking at the aerial photo or the photo interpretation, I can see a slight shadow. Okay? And that slight shadow tells me that that door opens to the inside. Okay? These people doors on the hangar doors, I also, you can't really tell too much, but with my experience as a cartographer, I'm a map maker by profession. Photo interpretation, remote sensing type of stuff is what I do. Okay, if you notice, you don't see that shadow. Okay, so that shadow, that lack of shadow, tells me that that door actually opens to the outside. Okay, so this door, these people doors on the actual hangar doors would be flush with the outside face. This door over here has a shadow, so that's telling me it opens to the inside. It's inset into the wall. So that's how we're going to model this particular person door. Okay, so go back into Blender, and with our person door selected, go into edit mode, and let's polygon select that, hit P to zoom in on it. Okay, I'm going to inset this door by roughly 3 inches. Okay, so with that polygon selected, I'm going to hit E. Maybe I got to make sure my scale is set. Tab out. Yeah, my scale is at 1, so I'm good. So back into edit mode with the tab, select that door and hit E minus 0.25, and it didn't do anything. What did I do wrong? Control Z, so undo that here for a second. I'm going to turn off snap. Okay, so got that polygon selected, hit E minus 0.25. Did that work? I don't know. Did it? Yes, it did. It just has a double face on it. That's right. I don't want that. It did extrude it to the inside. Okay? But we don't need this face here. So go to face select that face, and just hit delete and delete face, and now we have our door. Now the thing is, that door will be red, and so will the trim around the outside, because the normals, when you extrude something, the normals on the outside. Okay, so we need to flip this. We need to flip these faces. All right, so let's come up here to overlay, turn on face orientation. Oh, they're blue. That's good. Maybe it automatically flipped it, I think. Yeah, it did. It automatically flipped it. But that's what we want to see. We want to see blue on the outside. Okay? Now, one polygon we don't need is the threshold right here. We don't need that because that's going to be the concrete that's out here. So select that and delete it. Delete that face. So now we have a door that is inset by 3 inches. Does that make sense? Everybody see that? Okay. So let's get at it. Let's turn off our face orientation and zoom out. Get out of edit mode. So there's the skeleton of our, not the skeleton, but the rough in of our shape. So let's do a file and do a save. Okay, we're almost done with our door shed. We got a couple things to do yet, and once we get those done, this video will stop, and then we'll go to the next step in the next video. Okay, so anyway, notice that our doors are two-dimensional, only height and width. We don't have thickness yet. We can handle this in one swell swoop, kind of, sort of. All right, so this is going to be done with modifiers. All right, so let's select door 1 and hit the little wrench tool that takes you to the modifiers, and hit modifier, hit solidify. Okay, our solidify, we're going to make that door 1 foot thick. So type in 1, hit enter, and it gives you a kind of a relative thickness to it, just like that. Okay, so if I zoom in, that now that door is a foot thick. Okay, and you don't have to do this because the export process, you can do it in the export process, but I might want to do some editing to that door before I do anything else to it. You can apply the solidification. Then you can go in and edit the 3D stuff, okay? And we'll do that later, okay? For right now, we're not going to apply the solidification of the doors yet, all right? So we got door 1, here's door 2, and you're going to add a solidify modifier that is 1 foot thick to that. And then you're going to select door 3 and do the same, and do the same for all of the doors. Add a 1 foot thick solidify modifier to it. Okay. If your solidify is going the wrong way, if it's coming out, that means that your normals are flipped, and you need to go into edit mode, select the polygon. You'll do face orientation first, do orientation. If it always, it does when you use a solidify modifier, it always goes toward the red direction when it solidifies. So if this door happened to be red in the overlay, okay, you go into edit mode, hit tab, select the polygons, and then you hit Alt N to flip them. Now notice that, see how the red is pointed out? Okay, you want the red to be pointed in the direction that you're going to add the solidify modifier to. Okay, so I want it to go in, so I want my normals facing out. So I'm going to undo this, Control Z. Sorry, I got the hiccups. All right, but anyway, I undid my flip, so it's back to blue. Get out of edit mode. All right, and then go into solidify, add your 1 foot, and then door 5, same thing, solidify 1 foot. You guys get the picture? Okay, door 6, 1 foot. And then turn off my overlay so everything's back to gray. And then come up here to File, Save. Alright, so now our doors are thick. Okay, the modifiers have not been applied. I haven't applied them yet because I got some things to do on these doors yet. Okay, and then once that is done, then we'll go on to the next. Alright. Now, one more thing before we end this video and call our door shed prototype complete is we want to give the roof of the door shed a little bit of thickness because there is a fascia. See this little gray area right here? That means that there's thickness, okay, to our roof. All right, and we want to add in the fascia, which is this edge, this flat edge that runs up a roof All right, actually, it's called a rake, R-A-K-E. Okay, fascia is actually the ends. Okay, so we want to add in the fascia or rake to our roof and give our roof some thickness. And I believe that this thickness is about a half a foot, 5 inches. I mean 6 inches. Okay, so we're going to give our roof some thickness, and then we're going to call our our door shed complete for now. Okay, we'll do texturing later. Okay, we just want to get our model done. All right, so let's go back into Blender, and we want to select that that roof portion, and I want the roof to be totally separate than the walls. So let's, with that selected, go into edit mode, go into polygon select, and select this polygon and this polygon, and we are going to push P, make its own selection, and we are going to call this door shed. Instead of top, we're going to call it door shed roof. We're going to keep top, and we're going to come back to that later. Okay, all right, so we have the roof selected. Get out of edit mode, select our roof, go back into edit mode. All right, so if I turn off the door shed top, it's only the plane of our roof itself. Okay, okay, so with the roof in edit mode, you can hit A to select all the polygons, and we are going to extrude this in the Z direction 0.5 feet. Okay, so E 0.5. You don't have to specify a distance because extrude knows which direction. It's either going to be positive or negative. Okay, in the direction that the face is. Okay, so now we have our roof that has some thickness. Now, the plane on the top, these two planes that are selected, we can hit P again to make a new selection, and we can call that the roof deck, D-E-C-K. And the roof deck is what's going to get assigned the PBR texture for the corrugated roofing material. Okay, so if I turn off the roof deck, okay, now these two polygons that are underneath those are the roof ceiling. Okay, so I'm going to hit P, make a new selection, and I'm going to call that the roof ceiling. And there's a reason why I do this, because I keep the ceilings, because when you apply a PBR to a texture, one side's going to be transparent. It'll put the texture on one side, but when you look at it from the other side, you'll see right through it. Okay, and so I'll want some opaqueness to that, so I make the ceiling a totally different material so I can't see through the roof. Does that make sense? I hope so. So that's why I make the ceiling. Okay, now hit tab to get out of edit mode, and select the original door shed roof, and that is only the fascia. Okay, so I rename that so I don't get confused. I just put door shed fascia, just like that. Okay, just so you know, I separate parts based on their materials. Okay, it makes it a lot easier when you're doing your texturing and adding color and materials and stuff like that. So the fascia has a different material, the roof deck has a different material, the roof ceiling has a different material, etc. Okay? Okay, one more little thing before we stop this video is, if you remember our original door shed top, okay? Now, we have split off the roof, so the roof is no longer part of that. The only thing left of our original door shed top is the gable ends of it, the triangles on either side. And since the gable ends, if you look at our prototype photo, the gable ends have the same material as the walls of our door shed, right? So when I want to add my textures, like I said, each part in my models are organized by material. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these triangles and then join them to our original door shed. So when I do the materials, I don't have to do the triangles separate. Okay. I'll show you how we do that. So with the original door shed top selected, okay, I come over here to my tree and I select and I hold down the control key and select the door shed. Okay, so only the top and the door shed are selected. And I hit Control J, and that joins those two together. So door shed top no longer exists. It's now part of door shed. All right, so if I go into edit mode, you'll notice that now those triangles are part of the original door shed. So when I apply the materials, the triangles and the walls all get worked together. All right. If you have any questions, comments, put them in the comments and we'll talk about it. The next video, we are going to add in the Quonset part of the hangar. Okay, we're going to work on this part. I'm going to show you how to calculate this curve of the roof and place it on the model where it's supposed to be. And so the next step, you're going to learn some new tools in Blender, hopefully. Okay, you're going to use some kind of CAD type functions that it has, and we're going to create the curved part of the roof and the rectangle part, and we're going to join that in together with the rest of the model. So be looking for that video coming out. Please subscribe, share the video, like, comment, hit that notification bell. And I do have a Buy Me a Coffee account, which is Buy Me a Coffee, My Physical World. If you feel inclined to support what I do, hey, we will see you guys on the next video. Talk to you later. Bye.